Did you know that a lot of digestive issues are caused by a potential toxin that's in all of the quote healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with a fraudulent food pyramid for the longest time? Warning signs include weight gain and fatigue, digestive discomfort and stiff joints, even skin problems. Well, Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist, explains these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. He says the damage is probably caused by these health foods and it's far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix the problem from your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain this hidden potential toxin. So you can go find this yourself at gutcleanseprotocol.com/inspired. Because after years of research, Dr. Gundry has decided to release an informative video to the public, free and uninterrupted, showcasing exactly which foods you need to avoid. Go find that video at gutcleanseprotocol.com/inspired or click on the link in the video description below. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm tuning in with a little bit of a sunburn today. Actually, quite a bit of a sunburn, but it was really good. So thank you again for being here. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's the mantra of the Inspired live streams. It's been that for a long time. Charles, good to see you. Scapegoat, good to see you. And everyone tuning in on Rumble and on YouTube, please let us know in the live chat where you're tuning in from. And Daniel the Lion, Stewart, Vape King. Man, y'all are coming up with some great names. Soraya Evans, good to see you all. I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about a big picture thing. Again, it's kind of, I feel like it's all building up. And if you're just finding this, if you found our channel because of our previous interview with Jeff Berwick, welcome everybody. Welcome. It's so great to see you here. Please feel free to go back to previous live streams and videos and kind of get the body of work in, if you will. Also, let us know after the fact, if you're not in the live chat, where are you tuning in from? We love to see how the dots are connected all over the place. We wanted to talk a little bit about two concepts that really go hand in hand. One that in certain circles you hear a lot about right now, which is the chosen people. It's quite interesting how that works. And of course, with the current dominating story all over the place, and that is Israel, Hamas, Palestine, and the surrounding countries, Iran, and all of that. You know, there's a lot of talk about the chosen people, the God's chosen people, and what is theirs rightfully. And it's interesting how there's such a certainty around that. And that's been historically so, but it hasn't just been so for the Israelites or the Jews. Historically speaking, there were a lot of different chosen people in different cultures. And people were so certain that they were the chosen ones that they couldn't do no wrong. They couldn't do no harm. They couldn't do no nothing. And it's actually our greatest addiction that causes this particular phenomenon. And we'll get to it in a moment. But, you know, when the people that came to North America and South America, for that matter, the people that came here, when the indigenous people were living here and had been living here for a long time, they too felt that they were the chosen ones. As a matter of fact, there was a religious government doctrine, right? It was a co-creative doctrine in North America here, which is called manifest destiny. And, you know, there's not a whole stretch between manifest destiny, which meant that the United States of America was destined to expand from sea to sea, from coast to coast, and that it was God's will for America for this to happen. And then there's not a big stretch from that concept to, well, we are the chosen people to make that happen, right? And so within various cultural groups, political movements, and especially religious groups, there are always those who take specific concepts from their religious texts, from their scriptures, and over time those concepts lose some of the truth and the context, and they get isolated. And basically what they end up with is, we are the chosen people to make this happen, to bring this about. God chose us to do this. And there's a level of certainty in that, and a level of arrogance, and a level of then violence that comes from that, because after a few generations of that kind of thought process, indoctrination, it is pretty much in the blood, right? But that's the same principle that monarchs used and use to this day. It is 2023, and the United Kingdom, Great Britain, well, they just got a new king not too long ago, King Charles, right? And how did he become king? Because he's the chosen one. Why? Because he was born. He was born to a set of parents. That's the story. And because of his blood, he's the chosen one to be the monarch, to be the supreme being of that nation that everyone is supposed to pledge allegiance to. He's the chosen one. And so we have plenty of these chosen people, chosen groups, chosen leaders. And usually when I say the chosen, they're not chosen by the people. They're not chosen by their peers. They're not chosen by an electorate. They're chosen by a higher power. They're chosen by blood or by God, right? And when this kind of mindset takes over, which I think is the Wetiko mind, it's the sick mind, it's the hypnotized mind, if you will. It's a virus, if you will. When this takes over, it becomes a sort of fanaticism that that goes so deep that they can do no wrong. No matter what they do, it isn't wrong, because they're the chosen people. And I don't want to point fingers at any particular group, because it exists in every group, and it exists in every religion. And in every religion you have, especially in religion, you have those, and even in a broader spiritual spectrum, in a New Age movement, you have plenty of people who believe they're the chosen ones. Plenty of people who are the one, reincarnated, whatever. And there's this addiction that we have that makes it possible. And that addiction that we have is to certainty. We want to be certain about certain things. We want to make sure that these things are non-shakeable. And if we cannot, or if, contradictive evidence appears, we have to resort to our belief systems. We have to resort to this feeling of certainty, and no, I know this to be true. This I know to be true. They are the chosen people, or I know whatever the certainty is that we have. But in my experience, life presents itself like an onion, and you peel back one layer, right? When I believe, I think I remember, do I know for certain? Probably not. But when we come here, no matter what you think happens before, everybody thinks something happens before we come here. Everybody has some concept of what happens before we reincarnate here. But whatever happens before, the vast majority of people go through a successful mind wipe, right? They go through this. Remember that little stick in the Man in Black movies? Remember the Man in Black movies? And they click that button, boom, and you have a memory wipe, and you don't know what happened. First of all, how would we know that we're not often exposed to something like this on a mass level? It just happens. How would we know? The Mandela effect, for all we know, could be an effect or a side effect of such a mind wipe. But there seems to be a certain amount of clarity on the idea that we go through a mind wipe before we come here, so we don't remember what was before. Sometimes in hypnosis, sometimes as children, sometimes later on flashbacks. But generally speaking, most people have no memory of what was before we came here, before we were in our mother's wombs. Of course, we don't remember that either. And even before, most people don't have much memory of when they were babies or even toddlers. Some people, I happen to remember quite a lot about very early on. But besides the point is, we don't really know what happened before. So we come here and go through this mind wipe, and then we're here. And then life, if we actually accept it, life presents itself like an onion, where the layers are peeled, and when you really accept this state of flux, then you learn, or you remember, rather, I want to say remember is more accurate. You remember a truth that at that moment in time must present itself as the truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't accept it. So it presents itself, oh, I finally found the truth. So then you look around you. If you're lucky, others have found it too. And then you have a sense of belonging to that group. It feels good to be part of a group that sees the same thing. And that all is okay. That's all okay. But if you accept that that is the truth, now you've cut yourself off from the possibility that the truth has more layers, and you just weren't at that moment capable of accepting more than that which you could accept. But if life is the onion that I think it is, then more opens up for us as we continue walking. Does that mean that we question every singular detail every day? I know I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there is no definitive right or definitive wrong. There are certain things that they present themselves so clearly to us that we know that it's not right to do those things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that obviously and apparently the truth really is a part of it. That part that we can accept at any given moment of our lives because of our conditioning, programming, openness, state of consciousness, whatever. But if we then get so invested in this truth, and if larger groups of people get so invested in this truth, it becomes its own religious concept. It becomes its own doctrine. It becomes its own stream. And over generations, it becomes a whole belief system that is so strong that it overrides your perception of what reality really is, because you're invested in it. Your family's been invested in it. Your religion's been invested in it. Your nation's been invested in it. Everything has been invested in it. So we won't deviate. It's like those university professors that are teaching a certain brand of evolutionary theory and evolution theory, Darwin's evolution theory, which it simply doesn't. It was a theory and it doesn't hold true. There is so much contradiction in that, and it's now been shown that it cannot be this way. But what they say is, well, hold on, we got our whole educational model based on this, our books based on this, my notes based on this, decades of teaching based on this. I would have to change everything. I would have to relearn. It's much easier for me to just keep doing this. I have tenure and, I have 3 more years to go before pension. Why change now? Well, because your understanding of the truth has expanded. And so now you see a bigger picture. You're obligated to teach that now, but they don't. Often they don't. Because of this addiction to certainty, comfort, knowing it for sure. And I have the deepest respect for my elders that are in their 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s, and their mind and their spirit still remains open for growth. They are very clear on certain things, but on other things, they remain curious. They remain interested. They remain open, not open just for the sake of being open, but because they feel it's expanding. They're expanding still. If we could do that and understand that our addiction to certainty is just a program that's running us, that wants things to be a certain way. And how often have you heard it's always been that way? This is just how it is. And then you go out and you prove it. That's not how it is. That's just how it was done. That's just how it was perceived. It's not how it is. As a matter of fact, we don't know yet how it really is. What we do know is this thing wasn't the gospel, wasn't the truth. And I see this in some of my friends and our friends. I see this when something bad happens or when something unexpected happens. Then there is a fanaticism around this certainty. It is that way. That's the only way it could be. And maybe they're right. I'm not saying that. Maybe they're wrong. I don't know. What I'm saying is, if there is not a willingness to connect with your spirit and remain curious and interested enough to see whether there could be more to know, more to learn, we fall into this trap that we've been in for such a long time, where we fight each other, or we can be manipulated into fighting each other over what? My certainty over yours, my truth over yours. It's literally what all conflicts are over, right? This is literally what is unfolding over and over and over and over and over again. Well, I don't think it's all that certain. I don't really think that there is a group of people here, and because they are born of a certain blood, they are automatically chosen. Because then we would still have kings everywhere if that were the truth, and it would never change. I do think that there are wisdom keepers, right? There are people all over the earth that's their duty, their medicine. They pass on wisdom, and even they remain open enough to learn beyond that which they were given, because they know that as awareness broadens, knowledge broadens, wisdom broadens, and our perception broadens. So even if we look at the same thing, we look at it differently because our consciousness is more open, is more expanded. So the same thing appears in a different light. And so we could still look at what our ancestors looked, but we see it differently because we have a different state of awareness. And maybe that's not too much to ask, because this addiction to certainty is so destructive. It's when people go into battle, they go into war, they raise their arms, they shoot their bombs, and they fly their planes and drop their weapons, whatever they do. And they do it because they're certain what? They're certain that they're doing the right thing. I'm not so certain. I'm simply not so certain. I want to see if you put the children of all different cultures and races and creeds and nationalities, the children that haven't been indoctrinated yet, if you put them together on a playground, on a beach, wherever, I've seen this over and over and over again. How come they play? They don't speak the same language. They don't really verbally understand each other, but they play, they connect. They're curious. They explore. And, I'm not some open the borders, melt all cultures overnight kind of guy. You know this. There's a value in giving your community, giving your culture, giving your nation the chance for healing without being constantly interrupted, without being overrun, without all that. All of that has value. What I'm saying is, when you feel that you know for certain you're on the right side of things, or for certain these are the chosen people, or something for certain, on the other side of that coin, there's a group of people that feels the exact same way. They too have been taught that they are chosen, or some people are chosen, or something is certain. They too have been taught that it's the gospel truth. That's the difficulty of life as an onion, is that we must walk and chew gum at the same time, and be able to remain in a state of balance and expansion while we're doing what we know to be right in the moment. But when this know to be right turns into a campaign of destruction, a campaign of killing, when it turns into a campaign of violence, that can't be right. It just can't be. That seems a certainty to me that can't be right. When you're being attacked and you need to defend yourself, I fully support that, right? I support it in many structures and ways, and how society has ensured in some places in the world that is even possible. But we, every day we must question and go, who really wants this to happen, and to what end? Who wants me to fight that other guy? who benefits from me fighting that? Who benefits from somebody dropping a bomb and killing innocent people? Who benefits? It's not the people. It never was the people. So it's a philosophy, you know, it's always, people are always, you know, kind of combative when there is an emergency situation and somebody comes in and say, hold on, before we get too rash here and before we do something we will regret later, let's dive a little bit deeper into it, with our spirit, with our consciousness. And then people say, well, hold on, this is not the time to this is not the time for philosophy, Jean. It's not the time for spirituality. It's time for action. I agree. We always have to take inspired action. There's always time for action. But when we are addicted to certainty, we are repellents for wisdom. Because wisdom, part of wisdom is uncertainty, is that we are exploring concepts that we might not have names for yet. And if we leave wisdom behind as we enter any kind of battlefield, whether it's a symbolic or it's an analogy or a real battlefield, when we leave wisdom behind, we've already lost. If we leave our principles and wisdoms behind when we go into battle, we've already lost. Because that apparently was the whole reason why we went into battle for, you know, in the first place. So this is what I'm asking is, I'm just asking my tribe, my family, my friends all over the world to imagine that what they're so certain about might not be the full truth. It might be the beginning of truth or an aspect of it or one perspective of it. That's all I'm asking. Because we're being manipulated and it's working. It's shocking. It's shocking to me how it's working, especially after what we've been through in the last few years. It's working really well. What we're being manipulated into is the destruction of most of us. That's what we're being really manipulated into. And how is it being done? By using engraved belief systems that were put into place specifically for this purpose right now, hundreds and thousands of years ago. That's how long these plans have been in place. Specifically, these things have been specifically put in place so they can be activated at the right time and people can react. Not act, not think, not feel, not explore, not intuitively tune in. No, just react. React as they were programmed to react. And so this is what I would ask just of any of you when we feel so certain about something. It might be the truth. Let me say this. Of course it might be the truth. But just keep the window open just a little bit and try to see it through other eyes with another perspective. All right, my friends, that was all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your support and for allowing us to be on this journey together. We love you. We appreciate you all. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.